Look, you can see that quandongs grow all across Australia. They can survive across a huge area of Australia. That means, of course, that people in South Africa and China will be growing quandongs and selling them back to Australia soon enough. That's what it means. I've just been picking quandongs. Aren't they such a colourful, bright red colour? Aren't they so bright red? Amazing. Extremely drought resistant. Hello. The birds will get to them eventually. Birds or mice or something. Something was chewing that. Moist. What will I make with my quandong and apple pie maybe? Some quandong chutney or preserve. All you need to grow quandongs is a host tree like this one here. A wattle tree. A wattle tree. Growing nearby. There's a quandong tree. That's the trunk of the quandong tree. And it's got a big wattle tree growing beside it. That's a wattle tree there. And this is a quandong tree here. Quandong trees grow well with wattle trees, and wattle trees grow all across Australia too. They grow together. Listen to that sound. That's a peregrine falcon I can hear. Plus the sound of a truck, of course. This is a quandong tree or sandalwood. Sandalwood or quandong, they're closely related. Sandalwood are the quandong type family that have nuts. This is a quandong. And there you have behind it, there's a huge wattle tree for the quandong to get goodness out of, because the quandong is hemiparasitic. It's like an underground mistletoe. So the quandong likes to tap into the roots of the wattle tree. And then you get nice quandongs. There's a baby quandong tree. Let me tell you about my growing conditions for my quandongs. We have in summer the soil is hard baked clay, and it's very cold in winter. Often winters are wet, but the summers are very hot and dry. And quandongs are very drought resistant once established. They are. They can stand, apparently, it's clear that in my situation they can stand heavy, waterlogged clay in wintertime, hard clay in summer, and it's boggy and boggy in wintertime. Not all winters are wet, but they often are, and it turns into boggy and clay. Let me show you the soil. This is under a pine tree. Let me show you the soil, but it is hard clay. It's hard clay, see? It's hard clay. So there we have a little quandong come up from the seed. If it becomes an adult, it will have beautiful fruit. And nearby online, I've read that ruby saltbush is another host for quandong. So here's a little ruby saltbush growing nearby. It has edible red berries. But ruby saltbush, according to somebody online, is also a host for the quandong. That's interesting. I haven't, if you're going to, I wouldn't take it as gospel until I read it several times from several sources, but apparently ruby saltbush can be a host tree, a host shrub for quandongs. That's handy to know, because since Patterson's curse disappeared, ruby saltbush is coming up everywhere now. Here we have a quandong seedling. How high is it? Not quite as high as I am yet, but It's got a wattle tree growing nearby. It's got wattle growing nearby. And as I just said, ruby saltbush is said to be another host for quandongs. And I've also read online, but yet to be read over and over again from several sources. I've also read that Myopera montanum is another host for quandong. Whether that's true or not, I suspect it might be. I read it. Anyway, it's handy to know wattle trees aren't the only source for quandongs, the only host tree I mean. I think casuarinas might be as well. Handy to know these things. This is, I think, a Myopera montanum. It came up from a seed dropped by a bird. And ruby saltbush are now preponderating. So if there's going to be ruby saltbush everywhere, and it is a host for quandongs, then I mean Australia is just made for growing quandongs, isn't it? Every backyard in the outback could have a quandong. See, this was washed up by a flood, but it is hard-baked clay. Hard-baked clay in summer. Hard-baked clay. And quandongs can survive in hard-baked clay. Here they are growing in hard-baked clay. I don't know that wet clay is I don't know that hard-baked clay is their favourite medium for growing in, but we have wet winters and dry summers, and clay becomes muddy. This was all bits where it flooded. Hard clay, and in summer it's as hard as a rock, and in winter it's all muddy. I don't think I've read that they're not supposed to like wet feet, but the owls can survive wet feet. Okay, I'm proof that growing quandongs in clay, heavy clay, they can survive. And I've made previous videos about quandongs and sandalwoods and shown you this bird bath all frozen over. In winter by the frost, this bird bath can get all frozen. So it shows that quandongs can stand a very cold climate as well. I don't know about the coldest climate, but they can stand very heavy frosts. Of course, a young quandong seedling needs protection from frost, and also needs protection from the heat too. When it's small, it can dry out and die, or be nibbled by rabbits and kangaroos and give up. So they need water in summer when they're small to keep them. You've got to make sure that they stay alive, and they can't be too cold in winter or they get all burnt. But once they get to a good size, a quandong tree is quite drought hardy and quite frost hardy. And frost hardy, so much so that the bird bath can be frozen